Good evening, everyone. My name is Raj Krishnan, and I'm the CEO at Upcenter Technologies, and I'll be your host today. And before we start, I wish everyone a happy Ugadi, Gudi Padwa, Vishu Bihu, and an happy Tamil New Year. And I would like to welcome everyone to our webinar Uplift, which is our first edition of the Knowledge Series program. And this webinar is powered by Upcenter Technology. This webinar is a knowledge sharing and an awareness series designed to familiarize cloud concepts among young minds and seasoned professionals to carry back to the day-to-day activities. Guests in the series are seasoned professionals, and they would be sharing the decades of industry experience. So we get to hear from people who have been there and done that. We will be doing this webinar series once a month, and the recordings would be available for later view. Being the first in the series, and our topic would be Cloud First to Cloud Only. And let me introduce the guest for the day, Mr. Murali Krishnan. He has more than 2 decades of IT domain experience, working with top IT firms including IBM, Infosys, TCS, and currently with Capgemini as practice lead in cloud services. He has won various industry accolades like Next 100 CIO Award. He's a Harvard certified connected manager and graduated as part of the first batch of Capgemini's India's total top talent leadership. Without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Murali Lakshminarayanan. Mr. Murali, over to you.
Thanks, Raj Krishnan. Hello everyone. Today is celebrated as a huge festival with different names in different parts of India. So festive wishes if you celebrate the festival too. And before we get into the discussion, I would like to appreciate your team, Raj, for providing this wonderful platform. This uplift is definitely going to help cloud enthusiasts. And I'm pretty certain that a lot of knowledge will be gained by everyone through this monthly webinars and chat series that you are organizing. And thank you for your kind words about myself too, as part of your introduction. I would just like to add a small disclaimer here that the views that I express in this session, in this webinar, are purely mine, and I'm willing to share my experience to fellow cloud enthusiasts in the industry. And it does not represent or influenced by any specific organization. So yeah, hello everyone. Looking forward to a good session now.
Thank you, Mr. Murali, and we look forward to hear more from your experience and your cloud journey. Since most of our audience today starts with the various universities from seasoned professions, OEMs, vendors, and clients, I would like to start this session opener with a very basic question of what is cloud? And people are talking about different forms of cloud, like a private or public or hybrid or on-prem. So we would like to give your perspective of the basics of what is cloud and what's been there.
Sure, Raj. I'm glad that you started the session with a fundamental question here, right? I mean, with an assumption that most of the people in the webinar would have some kind of understanding. I will not delve deep into the question, but I'll just give a very small brief in terms of what cloud is, different types, and probably the different service models as well, right? So cloud computing, in the simplest term, is providing the computing services across the cloud over the internet, right? So in traditional hosting model, you own the data center, you own the infrastructure, or at least you pay for it. And whenever you need to add another application or upscale, upsize your infrastructure, you need to procure additional hardware and go about it. But in cloud, you just pay as you use. You can upsize or downsize as per your requirement, as per the need of the hour or minute or seconds at this point of time. So that's how cloud computing works. You don't have to own anything. It's all managed by someone else in a offsite location, and you only pay as you go with higher resilience, higher scalability in terms of model, right? So depending on how you have your infrastructure hosted by the service provider. It could be a private one or a public one, or even a hybrid one. Private one is where you typically have a dedicated model, dedicated infrastructure available for you. In public, it is typically shared. Multiple tenants are going to be there in the hosted service end. And in hybrid, it's going to be a mix of both private and public, right? And in terms of the different service models, we can have just the infrastructure as a service, or it could be a platform as a service, or it can have the entire software as a service. In the infrastructure as a service, you only have the base infrastructure, the storage network, along and the compute along with the service provider, while you manage the guest OS, data, applications, and so on and so forth. When it comes to platform, you also get the platform as a service for developers to make use of it and complete their work. And when it comes to software as a service, it's off the shelf. You get everything from the service provider, right? So that's the very basic explanation in terms of what a cloud is, the different models, and the different types of cloud as well.
Thanks, Mr. Murli. I think you've give an answer to the most sought after question, right? What is cloud? Is there it is really in the cloud? So that's fundamentally the question that everybody is looking at. So just moving on to the next set of question, right? So how do you see the cloud platform way forward? So in your
right. Yeah. Yes, Raj. So see, when cloud started, the mindset of people was, what is cloud? Then came the question of why cloud, right? So that's how it all started when cloud came into existence. A decade back, the concept changed. Probably cloud first as a concept came into existence at that point of time. When I say cloud first, I mean when an organization wanted to move to cloud, they also started looking at, should I move this to cloud, as the first question, and then if not, they will look at retaining them back or retiring them, depending on the requirement and the decision to be made from the top management. So cloud first was the concept, and with that cloud first also the thought process was, let me go to private hosted service provider, because I need more security, I can have a bit more control than the public one, right? So and then slowly the concept shifted from private to public. Now public is more in the offering than private in terms of the CXO's mindset. But right now, if you ask me, the future obviously is going to be cloud only, right? Cloud first is something where you look at everything and see if it's going to fit in the cloud, and if not, go into another option of retaining or retiring. But in cloud only, you make sure that you have everything on cloud and tweak your requirement accordingly, or tweak your applications accordingly, so that you move everything onto cloud. That is going to be the way forward. But again, that is going to be in middle to long term run. At the moment, it's always going to be a challenge getting everyone to cloud only concept. Probably they will be moving into a hybrid model at this point of time.
Wonderful insights, Mr. Murli. So you've touched based on cloud first to cloud only, right? So if enterprise should do an assessment on the impact of moving to cloud today, I mean, almost all the verticals have to move, but which industry vertical should fast adapt to cloud, in your opinion, Mr.
Right. Yeah. So you said what I was about to say. All the verticals will have to move to cloud eventually. Obviously, they will have to do a thorough assessment at their end in terms of where they stand at the moment before taking a decision on how they can move into cloud, right? So when you say which verticals have to go, again, I cannot give one or two verticals alone as the vertical for moving into cloud, right? But I can give you a reason for a couple of verticals in terms of why they should move, in my opinion, right? When it comes to retail, again, let me take how the entire scenario has changed post 2019, 2020, when the COVID hit the entire world, right? So more and more people started working from home. More and more people started to purchase things online. So the retail industry grew big online. Because of this, the user data has become enormous, right? So this means the entire customer data that are to be stored will be huge, and organizations will have to look at ways where they can utilize and leverage cloud as an option for this particular thing, right? So that's the change that has happened in the past 1 year, I would say, probably 1.5 years. Though the retail was growing exponentially in the past as well, online retailing, in the past 1.5 years, it has just exceeded its own way of growing. So that is something which they have to consider. Similarly, healthcare is another vertical that I would say, right? Because traditionally, if you look at it, healthcare has been a vertical which typically is slow to any technology adoption, right? So they always, I cannot say that, I cannot generalize it completely, but typically they have been the people who are slow in catching up with the industry in terms of technology. But again, in the last 1.5 years, we have seen that many requirements have come up in terms of medicinal or medical requirements as well, right? And the data management, the progress of the patients, all these things are there in the healthcare, for which cloud adoption would make a strong business case, right? So these industries are not the only ones. There are many industries which all the industries should go for cloud. And for that very purpose, we are coming up with the industry specific cloud these days, right? So these industry clouds have two specific verticals. The requirement for that particular vertical will be considered, and the cloud provisioning and the cloud strategy will be tweaked accordingly. So industry cloud is something that every industry should be looking at, every vertical should be looking at and adopting depending on their requirement.
Great insights, Mr. Murli. I think you're given a perspective of the industry-specific clouds, and that's where the way forward is. And before we proceed further, I have one question from the audience side. So I'd just like to point that question, Murli. So in terms of security, how do you overcome ransomware attack in cloud? So that's a question from the audience side.
Okay, so yeah, ransomware attack has been for a while now, right? And if you look at again, I will have to touch upon this pandemic situation multiple times probably during our chat, because that has got a direct or are directly proportional to cloud's progress as well, right? So if you look at how pandemic has changed the way people work, a lot of people are working from home these days. They are sharing the network at home for both their personal work as well as their official work. So the attackers have a greater mean, or an easier, relatively easier mean to hack into the network and be able to induce some cyber attack in your organization's landscape, right? So when you look at it, it has now become more of an inevitability to prepare yourself rather than looking at it as a probability, right? So you can overcome this, again, in my opinion, is you need to react quick. You need to isolate the affected components, quarantine them, and identify which could be the affected portions very fast using the tools that we have. And then you should start the restoration process, right? So always I would suggest my clients also the same thing. It's a 3-2-1 approach. Go for 3 different backups in 2 different mediums. One of them should be in an offsite location. This is not my words, this is the words from Veeam management. So this is something which is very good, which is applicable. So if you have that kind of process, you will be able to overcome ransomware if you get hit by it.
Great. So that's I think the great answer that the the listener would be proud of to listen from you. So what I hear and understand is that the adoption of cloud computing is not a choice anymore. That's what you foresee.
Yes, Raj, that's correct. In fact, in my opinion, it was not a choice for many years now, if you ask me, right? Okay. So enterprises were not adopting cloud for some of the trivial reasons, right? probably they were owning an infrastructure, probably they were owning the data center, the license cost, all those things were playing in their mind, or probably they were worried about the security reasons, which we just spoke about in terms of ransomware as well. So all those things were there in their mind in terms of how we can overcome all these things, how we can handle the cost that we have already put in place for data center and infrastructure. So all these things have changed now, right? So if you look at the way things have panned out over the past decade or so, companies and enterprises are investing less and less in terms of data centers and infrastructure. Slowly, they have started moving towards cloud in a gradual manner. And also, most of their licenses or the contracts for the data centers are also coming to a closure. So this would be the right time for them to move into cloud, probably whenever it is getting over, so that they don't have to have double cost in terms of their own infrastructure cost as well as the cloud cost. So that is happening. As I said, again, I'm going back to the same thing. The pandemic has made sure that all these reasons that I mentioned are thrown away. The advantage of going to cloud has outweighed all these barriers that I have just spoken about. So yes, it's not an option anymore. It's not a choice anymore. People have seen what cloud can give them in terms of benefits, and they have to move to cloud.
Great insights. So before I proceed to further questions, so I would let the audience know that you can actually have, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box, and then we can put the questions and we can answer these questions as we run through the webinar. Mr. Murali, so the next question, so I see that you mentioned pandemic, and I also had as part of my question list. So how do you think pandemic has changed the cloud adoption, and how do you foresee those changes in the future years to come?
Yeah, I mean, pandemic has definitely changed everything. The way we're looking at the world has changed in the past 1 year, right? It has caused a lot of disruption, a lot of loss to human life and economy. From a cloud perspective, also things have changed a lot, right? It was a one of its kind situation. Probably it should not happen again. There was a global lockdown, as we all know, and more companies wanted people to work from home. Travels were restricted. People were working without any borders, right? They were working across the globe in terms of how they provide service to their respective clients, right? So at this point of time, the organizations had to ensure that the services go uninterrupted. Everybody had access to their data. Enterprises realized that cloud was the only way to go and get things done. So whatever doubts they had until that point of time were all removed, and people started adapting to cloud. So that's what I have seen in terms of how the pandemic has affected cloud adoption in a number of enterprises. So if I have to quote Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, he said in 2020, right, that he had seen 2 years of digitization in 2 months because of the pandemic. Because of the pandemic, organizations started adapting cloud, and because of that, he said that 2 years of digitization was possible in 2 months. So that's how much an impact COVID or the pandemic world had affected the cloud adoption for companies, right? So if I have to give an example, until 2019, EdTech was not very big.
Great.
EdTech was growing, it was in its nascent stage. But if you look how it has grown in 2020, it's huge. Most of the students, most of the children are studying from home, a concept that we had never thought about until 2019. Right. Yeah. So with more and more students starting to learn from home, the content material and the progress, all those things are also we're growing in terms of size, and all those EdTech companies started leaning towards cloud for data storage, right? So that's just one example. So that's how the entire pandemic has affected cloud adoption.
Great. So so with the pandemic and work from anywhere concept, that you are mentioning about. So has there been any concerns on the security over cloud computing?
Yeah, I mean, security has always been looked at as one of the area, one of the challenge, and probably the CXOs of the past decade were quoting security as a reason whenever they thought that they would not move into cloud, right? So again, as I mentioned, when people started working from home, they used a shared network, right? So that's another thing which probably made the hackers to try and get into the network more easily, relatively easily than if it were in the corporate network, right? However, that's not true. In a survey that was held with the UK cyber security experts, 84% of people have said that the security has actually increased when the infrastructure or the landscape moved from on-prem to cloud. So that's what they have seen, that's what they have experienced, and that's what they vouch for. 84% of cybersecurity experts have said this in UK as part of the survey, right? And in one of the articles, I also read that organizations in general would be spending about 100 billion in terms of providing cybersecurity for their assets, right? So that's a huge amount that we are talking about. So this is for improved IAM, identity and access management, that would help in enhanced cybersecurity and reducing the risk of any attacks if data is on cloud, right? And I don't know if everybody would be aware. SASE is also getting big these days. That is something where which I think was less than 1% until 3 years back, and probably is expected to go to about 40%. Right. So this will ensure that no matter where the users are, no matter what devices are used, what cloud delivery model is being used, the cyber security is at its max, reducing the vulnerability of the entire landscape. So that's something which I think is the way forward in terms of security for cloud. Yeah, sorry, please go on.
All right, great. So I think you mentioned only the cybersecurity industry is around 100 billion is a good number. It's a massive number, and that gives a portfolio of how big the security industry would be in the near coming years altogether. So before I move to the next question, so I have one question from the audience side, right? So the question is, what is holding back companies in adopting cloud? What are the major reasons that is holding them back? So that's the question from the audience.
Okay, I mean, by nature, human beings are reluctant to change, right? So when things are functioning well, we always think that let it run as far as it goes. Unless we get a bigger problem, we will not come out of it. So even if somebody says that if you move to a different technology, you will get better benefits, the mind always starts thinking of ways and reasons on why the move should not happen. Right. So in my experience, the interaction with the different clients, I have seen a few key things coming up again and again. One is the license cost or the infrastructure cost that they would have already invested on. So that is one key thing. Security is another. Legacy applications that they have in their current landscape could be one reason. The amount of control that their IT support staff will have on their infrastructure will reduce if things move to cloud. So that is another reason. So, I mean, all these reasons, as I said, are something which they come up with when they don't want to move to cloud. All these can be overcome if proper planning is done and if the organizations and enterprises move into cloud, right? So if you look at security, we just spoke at length about security. In terms of proper control for the IT support staff, we can have different models that we spoke about: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or a software as a service. Depending on which model you choose, you will have the level of control on the landscape. And in addition, also you can have some perimeter firewalls put in place. So all these things can happen, right? So organizations can overcome whatever challenges that they can think of in terms of cloud adoption. It was happening slow, but now it is happening fast, that they have to move into cloud because they don't have any option right now.
So that is cloud first to cloud only. So probably.
Yeah.
So just to add upon, so because you mentioned on the infrastructure, platform, and software. So what is the best model for the enterprise to adopt? Is it like the infrastructure as a service as in IaaS or the platform as a service as in PWS?
I mean, it depends on what the organization needs, right? So both have their advantages and disadvantages. In fact, software as a service is another model as well, where there are some advantages which would beneficial for some organizations. So if I look at, we just spoke about the control of the service provider versus the client, right? So if I only look at the control as one factor, in infrastructure as a service, you have a higher control. I mean, the client has got a higher control compared to the other two, right? Because they will have access even on the guest OS, they will have access on the data, they will have access on the applications. When it comes to platform as a service, it goes to the platform level. You get the platform from the service provider, your developers work on it, and they develop whatever they want. And if you don't have any developers, if you don't have the manpower to manage anything at all, you just go for software as a service model, right? So software as a service model, you get everything off the shelves. There is nothing that you need to manage. Everything is being done by the service provider. But again, this is just from a control perspective that I have said. In addition to this, they have to consider various other factors in terms of what services they provide, what information they have, what clients they cater to, what industry vertical they are a part of. So there are so many factors that they have to consider, and based on what their exact need is, they need to identify which model they need to go. Probably some business units in their company might go for one model, and some other set of applications might go on a different model. So it could be a mix of all the three as well, depending on what services the organization is providing. So there is no straightforward answer to that, Raj.
Okay, great. So you spoke about the control. So before I go to the next question, so one of the audience question was, is cloud cost effective? $1 million question.
Yes, if proper planning is done, definitely it is cost effective. What I would say though is, cost effectiveness alone should not determine whether you want to go into cloud, right? So if you're having everything hosted on-prem, if you're going to just do a rehosting, do a lift and shift and move everything to cloud, obviously the cost in terms of migration will be less, but you will be carrying all the issues that you had in your source landscape as well. Obviously, the cost effectiveness will come into picture in terms of managing the software, in terms of the cost for the infrastructure paid or the services paid. Again, that should not be the only factor that you should consider when you move into cloud. What you should also consider is, if there is an avenue for me to do a complete optimization in terms of the landscape that I currently have, if there is a possibility of doing a re-architect of the applications, if I can get rid of some legacy applications, if I can retire some of them, all those things should be considered. And then the strategy should be framed. You don't have to necessarily go for rehosting. You can go for other ORs as well. And based on that, you will probably spend a bit more during the migration, planning and migration. But beyond that, obviously, yes, in terms of the operations, the cost will be less. With so many automations in place for the management of your landscape, there definitely is cost effectiveness.
I think that clears some air around the is cloud cost effective question, Mr. Murli. So I'll just go on to the your pick from your previous point, right? Because you're speaking on the control. So with the control with the service provider, so how is the responsibility split between the provider and the client when it comes to security?
Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? So if things were on-prem, it's crystal clear. You own everything and you are responsible for the security as well. But when it comes to a cloud platform, when it is hosted on cloud, managed by a service provider, there probably is not a very defined matrix in terms of RASI, which probably you will have to work on sitting with the service provider and coming to an agreement. But the general guideline is, again, it depends on the model that you are going to avail in terms of infrastructure as a service, platform, or software as a service, right? So if it is infrastructure as a service, then the service providers, the cloud service providers, will own the network, physical, and storage alone, right? And beyond that, even the guest operating system, the client will be deploying the guest OS, they will be installing the applications. So from there onwards, the responsibility will start coming onto the client, that is yourself, right? So if you are the client, it is going to be on. But when it comes to platform as a service, even the guest operating system or the middleware, all those things also will go to the client service provider. You will only be managing the application and the data which is on top of the platform. When it comes to software as a service, even the application will go into the cloud service provider's kitty. And you just have to come up with a plan in terms of how you'll be managing the data of the users, how it has to be managed, all those things. So again, this is just a general guideline. A definite RASI has to be prepared while getting into the agreement with the service provider. And accordingly, the responsibilities will be shared between the CSP and the client, right? So again, I just remembered what I read some time back in terms of how this responsibility split is being considered by some of the CISOs, like security officers. So what they feel is that if you go for cloud, 74% of them feel that all the responsibility with respect to security goes and sits with the service provider. That is not the case. You probably need to delve into the details. Devil is in the details. You need to sit, work on the plan, agree on a RASI, and put it in the contract. That's how it has to be.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on your comments, right? So when it goes to hosting in the cloud, so the responsibility metrics are very, very important, as you mentioned. And there are a couple of questions before I move on to my next question from the audience side. I'm just going to pick one. I think we have talked about security over cloud, so I'll just skip that and we will answer that later. So do you suggest moving business critical workloads to cloud is one of the questions from the audience.
So we are talking about cloud only as the option here. So if you are going to ask me, I would suggest move everything onto the cloud, right? However, there is always a however clause added to any statements that people make, right? So when you are going for a cloud, don't go for a big bang approach. Don't move everything at once, including your mission critical applications onto cloud. Right? You start with a proper and thorough assessment of the entire landscape. You need to understand the different interfaces for each of the applications, not just the business critical applications, but you need to look at the interfaces for each of the applications. How critical it is for the business should be judged based on the assessment that you do, not just in terms of how costly the software or application is, right? So you need to come up with the criticality of the application. You do the planning. Once you do the planning, you do a pilot as well. And I would suggest that you go with the non-production applications initially. Do a thorough testing of the non-production application. If everything is found okay, give it some time, let it be on the cloud, probably for a defined period, maybe 1 month or even 2 weeks, depending on how risk aversive you are. So based on that, you take a call. Certain period, the non-production applications would be on the cloud. If there are no hiccups, no issues, then go with the migration of your production one. This is going to be the same template, whether it is a mission critical or not. But I would suggest to start with a less critical application before you start moving your mission critical applications.
Great, Murli. I think that answers the audience question. So you talked about the criticality of the applications. So that puts me the next question. So could you elaborate on the business continuity and disaster recovery in the cloud? How do you?
Yeah. So business continuity and disaster recovery are key factors in any for any organization, right? It's not something that is specific to on-prem or whether it is specific to cloud. And again, business continuity is something that going back to the COVID situation has gained prominence after the COVID or the pandemic that we got hit with, especially with a lot of people working from home. Probably that's when the load on VPN increased. People realized that they need to increase their bandwidth. Network was not able to handle the number of connections that they were getting from the employees working from different parts of the world. So all those things mean that DR and BCP should be considered as a top priority, right? And I see that the awareness has started to set in among the CXOs. DR as a service is also something that is picking up these days, which means the time for recovery would increase once this DR as a service is also implemented in the landscape, right? So again, reiterating what I have been saying in different forums and on this call, the COVID situation has made people realize the importance of cloud, the importance of BCP and DR as well. So that is something which is really a point that I would call as a takeaway from this session as well.
Wonderful. So just before I move on, so there are two questions. So one is your thoughts on data analytics with cloud.
What exactly is to be answered in terms of data analytics on cloud? Is there anything specific that the questioner would want to understand on data analytics? I'm not too sure. It's a very generic term for me to answer. Probably we'll come to the question in a bit.
Yeah, so probably we can record your answer. So we'll go back to the the person who asked and in detail in questions.
If you get more specifics, probably
more specifics on the question, because I think it is too generic to answer. So one of the other question is specific to the region, right? It's we are talking about global, so it's specific to region. So this question is India cloud ready?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it is, I would say. Again, if you look at it, there are a number of organizations and enterprises who have already moved into cloud, right? Even if in India, that is the case. And there are a number of service providers operating out of India, which all means that we are definitely there, not in the top, but probably we are there, right, at some point of time. And we also spoke about the ransomware and all a bit earlier in the session. So if you look at it, actually in the Southeast, in entire South and Southeast Asia in 2020, India Inc. is the one which got affected by ransomware on cloud the most, right? So I didn't want to mention it at that time, but since there is a question specific to India, I thought I will bring this up. So India Inc. is also trying to come up with a number of security measures to handle these kind of things. And they are definitely trying to address all the gaps that they have in terms of cloud knowledge and the transformation that they can bring about in their landscape.
Great. So I'll just park my last question. I think a little bit of time check. I think we are at 40 minutes into the event. So 20 minutes is on the Q&A. So I'll just pick the question from the audience before my last question to you, Mr. Murli. So the question here is, what happens if there are multiple legacy applications? Will they be supported on cloud?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier in the session that the CXOs cite legacy applications as one reason for not going into cloud, right? Because of the fear on whether it would work or not. But as I have been repeatedly saying in all my sessions, proper planning would ensure all the roadblocks are moved out, right? So for legacy applications, again, the steps remain the same. We need to do a proper assessment. You need to see the functionalities of the application. You need to see whether they are actually required as is in the target environment, whether you can make some tweaks without hindering the functionality of the application. So all those things should come up in the assessment and planning, right? So again, once all those are done, you need to do a test migration, a pilot migration of non-prod and see if it works on the cloud, right? If it works, again, you need to see if it is possible to do any enhancements in the cloud platform. That also needs to be tested out. If it is not happening, right? If it is not happening as such to move the legacy applications to cloud, or if you are not able to do any enhancements, you again go back to the whiteboard, look at other options. There are options like containerization. You can look at microservices, separate the functionality, and do whatever is required to move the bare minimum to cloud and add the other microservices later. So the possibilities are endless. To answer in one line, legacy applications are a challenge, but it's not impossible to move to cloud. You just have to do thorough planning and assessment.
Great. So you pull up the points of the Kubernetes and Dockers and containers, so that the legacy applications can be. So that's a very valid point for the audience who asked the questions. So this is my final question. So are you saying that all organizations now should start moving towards cloud as an immediate action?
Okay. All I am saying is cloud is definitely the way forward. There is no reason why organizations wouldn't or shouldn't go to cloud. See, a study by Gartner has shown that more than $300 billion will be spent by enterprises purely for the cloud first approach. Sorry, not cloud first approach, cloud only approach, right? So what they say is people will move away from cloud first. It has now become outdated. People will start look at cloud only as the option, and they will spend more than 300 billion by 2024 to ensure that they have most of their services moved to cloud by that time, and the remaining ones will also follow soon later, right? So having that in mind, it's not me, it's Gartner who has done this assessment. My view is, irrespective of what vertical you are, irrespective of what service you provide, you need to look at cloud adoption as the way forward. You need to do a thorough assessment of your landscape. That is always the starting point. Probably you can look at all the options at this point of time, maybe private, public, or a hybrid, depending on what you have in your landscape. You can look at infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or software as a service. All those things also can be thought about. While all these are options, moving to cloud is not. You have to go to cloud, do an assessment. Again, do not rush. Make a judgmental call after you have all the assessment data on hand. That's exactly what I would want to see. Nothing more than that.
Great, perfect closure, Mr. Murli. So I just wanted to reiterate the points you mentioned. So cloud first is kind of not an option. It's cloud only is the way forward that you said. And you also touched on the points on security, legacy, business continuity, and disaster recovery, and how pandemic has changed the entire approach from 2 years to 2 months. And I also read somewhere that we have just migrated 5% of the entire workload today. So we have 95% of the workload still left with this. And beautifully started off with the basis of cloud, and we spoke about ransomware, security, the split of responsibility between a client and the cloud service provider, so on and so forth. Thank you so much for your time and for your presence. And this is the first knowledge series of Uplift, and we would value your presence here, and we welcome for your thought process over this session. Thank you so much. And for all the lovely audience, you will have this recorded, and we'll be posting in our YouTube. You can follow us in our social channels, and you can get. And before we part, Mr. Murli, thanks very well for all your insightful answers. Your 2 decades of industry experience have shown in your answers. Thank you so much. We will meet you soon in the next month in another topic on the Uplift webinar series. Thank you once again for joining. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.